And that is when we started our activities. That is when you saw the house prices of this country start to accelerate much faster than wages and inflation. And what we've seen since the election of the Albanese government, their first
I'm here with Craig Kelly at the Sydney International Airport, Kingsford Smith Airport. Craig Kelly is the Libertarian candidate for the Senate of New South Wales. We're here to talk about immigration. So Craig, you've got 4 charts here. What's the first one tell us?
Well, firstly, John, behind us is Sydney International Airport, the gateway to our nation, where most migrants come into our wonderful country. Now, the immigration issue is a big issue at this election campaign, but unfortunately, it is not being debated with the true facts and the data. So I've got these charts that I'd like to go through to show why this is such a problem and why our immigration needs to be discussed, debated and acted upon.
And this first one, what does that tell us?
Well, John, these 4 charts show the problem. The first one is our net overseas migration rate going back to the start of the last century, the year 1900. Now what it shows, from the end of the Second World War up until the Sydney Olympics, the average net rate of migration to this country averaged around 80,000 people. That created the great multi-ethnic society that we have here in Australia today. That was the society that I grew up in. But since then, since the Sydney Olympics, it was the Liberal government that kicked that annual net migration rate up to up here over 200,000. And that is when we started our activities. That is when you saw the house prices of this country start to accelerate much faster than wages and inflation. And what we've seen since the election of the Albanese government, their first full year, 2022-2023, we saw over 500,000 a net rate of migration. 2023-2024, about 480,000 net rate of migration. And we don't have the full figures for this financial year, but it looks like it's going to come in somewhere close to 400,000 as well. So that will mean, in the term of this Labor government, the net migration rate has been over 1.3 million people. The economy simply can't absorb that many, especially when the rate used to be around 80,000. 500,000 people. The country simply cannot build the infrastructure big enough.
The reason why they're doing it, both Labor and Liberal, is because it papers over their economic mismanagement. They think, oh, if we bring in a lot of people, then it'll grow the economy. It makes it smaller for the people already here. And they say, oh, we're not in a recession, we're not in a recession. We are in a per capita recession. But they're papering it up by letting way too many people in. This was good, this was good, this is bad.
Now the second chart, John, shows many international countries, the population increase this century. You can see here, the Euro area, 8%. United Kingdom, 16%. United States, 19%. But Australia, the highest in the world, we've had a 40% increase in our population since the Sydney Olympics, since this century. That is what is causing all the pressure on our housing and our infrastructure.
What's this one here?
Well, John, this one here, this shows migration as a percentage of the population. Now you can see going back to 1982, we had around about our population growth was 50% through migration, 50% through natural increases. In recent years, or currently now, under the Albanese government, we are at over 80% of the increase of our population is coming from migration. So what's happening? The excessive migration is pushing up the cost of living, pushing up inflation, pushing up housing costs especially, making it more difficult for young Australian couples to start families. So we're seeing our fertility rate decline, the migration rate pick up. So all our population growth, or 80% of it now, is coming from migration, not 50% like it used to be.
Now, Craig, we're often told that there's a housing crisis because we're not building enough homes. Is that true?
Well, John, the final chart here, this is from the Financial Times in the UK, and it looked at the number of new houses built per 100,000 people over the past decade. You can see the UK's down here in the red, but Australia, we are world champions. We are just behind Switzerland at building new houses. So this idea that we are hearing constantly from all these politicians, we've only got to build more houses to fix up the issue of excessive migration is a complete and utter furphy. Australia is world champions when it comes to house building, house construction. We've built more new homes over the last decade than just about anyone else around the world, any other nation. The problem is demand, excessive migration, not supply. So we're the Libertarian Party. We are going to this election with a policy saying the migration rates must be cut in this country. We've got to bring those housing prices down, we've got to bring those rents down, and we've got to try and restore the great Australian dream to a generation of young Australians that has the rug pulled out from underneath them.
Now, the Libertarian Party immigration policy is a market-based policy. It will result in a reduction in our net immigration by probably about 75%. Now, Mr. Dutton's talking about a drop of 25%. That's not noticeable. And not only that, not only will there be a big reduction under our policy, but the migrants that come in are going to be job creators and people that can grow industries and grow businesses, and that's the migrants that we want. So when you're voting at this coming election, please vote for Craig Kelly and all the Libertarian candidates across the country.
One final thing I'd add, this is not against migrants themselves. Migrants have made a valuable contribution to this nation, and they will in future years. In fact, the people that are harmed the most by these excessive rates of migration are people that have moved to this country in the last decade. They've done their sums, how much rent would be, how much houses would cost, how much they could earn. They've done their sums and migrated to Australia based upon that. And now they find all those calculations blown out the window, where they look like only being able to rent for the rest of their lives. Authorised by Craig Kelly, Libertarian Party, Sydney.